Right, next up, Excel. Question 3, spreadsheet. Now, please take note, we need to use formula and functions for all calculations. We need to use absolute cell referencing only when necessary to ensure that formula are correct when we copy them to other cells in the same column. We need to insert formula or functions in such a manner that the correct results will still be obtained even if the existing data changes. Okay, I'll tell you what that means in a little while. And should you need to use building blocks, use the allocated space in the spreadsheet. Now, this is a new thing that came in very recently, well, basically last year. So I'll show you now what they mean by that. So let's open the 3 painting spreadsheet and let's have a look at that. And we are working with this, and they're saying it contains a list of paintings from the Impressionists movement. Work in the Impress worksheet. So you'll see this is the area that they're saying we must use if you want to use building blocks. Now, building blocks is if you have a complicated function that you need to do and you have to break it up into small pieces. This is where you then do the other small pieces. Okay. Right, let's see. 3.1. Format the merged cells A1 to J1 as follows. Change the border color to red and set the fill color to black. Right, so it's this merged cells over here. And the border color must be red. Now, you can do it over here. I just personally think the easiest is to go do it by more borders. And then change the color to red. And please, guys, if there's an actual standard color with the name red, you have to use this one. You can't use like a shade of orange or even dark red. You have to use the actual red color. Okay? And then change it to outline. There you go. And if you did this and you only did it to the 2 borders that shows in this specific view, you actually didn't get your marks, eh? So even though we only see the right and the bottom border, we don't actually see the top and the left border, you actually had to apply it to those as well. And the fill color, we can just do it over there to solid black. 3.2. Insert a function in cell G3 to determine the earliest year, column C, in which a painting was painted. Earliest year in which a painting was painted, that would be min. Now, just so that you know, the way I do that fast selection is let me just go and do that again. Firstly, I type equals min. I press tab to open the bracket. Click on the first one, Control, Shift, and press my arrow down. Please note that this does not work if there are gaps in the data. So if there's anything where there's like this column G, that would not work on H or I. And no, none of those columns would work. But for this column, that works out nicely. And I can press Enter and it will put in the bracket itself. 3.3. Insert a function in cell G4 to determine the number of paintings for which the place where the painting was painted, column G, is not given. Right, so here, how many places were not given? So this will be a count blank. As soon as the function is suggested, like that, I can press the tab and it will auto-complete the function for me and open the bracket. Then I can just select the range. Three, 4. The function in cell G5 displays the average width of all the paintings in the worksheet. Add another function to cell G5 so that the given formula displays a value formatted to the nearest highest decimal value Example, 271,32 becomes 271.40. Note, 2 decimal places should still be displayed. Okay, so basically what this does is we're rounding it to 1 decimal place, but we're still displaying 2 decimal places. So let's see. They've already done an average for us in this cell. Okay. Now we just need to add a round to that. So you have 2 options. If you're comfortable with adding a round to that, you can, well, we need to add a round up, hey, because they said nearest highest decimal value. So it needs to be a round up. So you can add it like this, where you type the round up after the equals, round up with its own square bracket. The average that they've given is part of the number, and we then add comma. The number of digits is, we're rounding up to 1. Right. And it's still displaying 2 decimals. That's the one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to actually cut this function that they've given, put it in your building blocks, and then do your roundup over here and refer to this function. Equals, do you see, L9, just do it over here. So round up, the number is L9, comma, number of digits is 1. Also, let's just do that. If we've opened up the function, you know what function to use roundup. We can also use the FX button, if that's easier for you. FX, number is any number that you want rounded up. That's the number we want rounded up. How many digits? 1 digit. Okay. So it's critical that you actually still refer to the cell there that contains the average function. You can't just type in 151.32, otherwise you will lose your marks there. Okay, there you go. So I've moved the average function to this column. If this is easier for you to do, I've moved it to the building block space, and I've then referred to that cell. 3.5. Insert a sum-ifs function in cell G6 to determine the total insurance value, column J, of all the paintings painted before 1900 and where the city in which they are exhibited is Chicago. All right, so they gave us the function we should use, so we actually don't get a mark for that. So, sum-ifs, open up. And let's go to our function builder, fx. So as soon as you've opened up your round bracket, just press on the fx button, and then it opens up your function arguments for you, so that this is a bit easier. So we're starting with the sum range, and they've told us this is column J. So sum range, click in that, and select everything in column J. All right. Now, first criteria range, the range of cells you want evaluated for a particular condition. And then we're going to specify the condition over here. So the first thing they said, let's just go double check again quickly, was the paintings painted before 1900. Wait, no. Okay, so the year that it was painted, we're going to have to look at this range. So this is the range. And the criteria is less than 1900 because it was before the year 1900. Okay. And the second criteria, let's just open that up quickly, was where the city in which they are exhibited is Chicago. Right, exhibited in city, you see this column I, So criteria range will be this column. And the criteria is Chicago. All right, that's our answers. Now you'll see the function added my double quotation marks automatically because I'm doing it using this function argument builder. As soon as I did the less than over there, that's the one thing I wanted to point out. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I'm typing Chicago in by hand, and I'm not just being lazy and clicking somewhere where I can find Chicago there, like this cell. Okay. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I don't know whether the city in which it's being exhibited in might change. Okay. This water lilies might move to another city, and then my function doesn't work anymore. That's what this instruction at the beginning means. There's this instruction at the beginning that says, insert formula and functions in such a manner that the correct results will still be obtained even if the existing data changes. That's what that means. If this data changes, and it changes to something else, it changes to Amsterdam or New York City or something, my function still needs to work. And that's why I'm not allowed to type in a cell reference for criteria ever. Okay. I'm never allowed to be lazy and just type in a cell reference for criteria where it's safer to type in the actual text because this cell might change. Okay. All right. I hope that makes sense. Let's just quickly see or discuss why sum ifs is different than sum if plus sum if. Now, what sum ifs does is it actually looks at both of these ranges and it examines them for both of these criteria before it actually adds it together. So it will look for this Chicago and check this one will not be added because the date is after 1900. So it's looking for Chicago. Yes, ding, ding, ding. This one, it passes the test, but because it fails this test, this will not be added. So it will move on to the next one. This one passes both tests, and that's why it will actually add this amount. So that's what it does, is it looks to see that it passes both tests before it will actually add the amount. And that's why it's different than using sum if plus sum if, because if you used sum if plus sum if, it actually looks at these two in isolation, and it would have just added all of those who are less than 1900, irrespective of which city it is, and all of those that are in Chicago. All right. Next up, 3.6. Let's move up a bit. Cells B9 to 120 contains the full names of the artists of the paintings. Use a spreadsheet feature to automatically apply a two-colored gradient fill to unique values in these cells. So, it's this column. Now, there's only one feature that allows us to apply formatting automatically, and that is conditional formatting. Now, I don't know anything about unique values. I've only heard about duplicate values. So let's see what options we have there. Duplicate values. Would you look at that? There's unique. You see? Now we want to create our own formatting, hey? Custom format. We want a two-colored gradient fill. So fill effects, two colors. Okay, so any of these are actually fine, but let's make it two other colors just so it looks obviously different. Okay. Right. And then there you go. Well, there are the unique ones. 3.7. Column C contains the year in which the paintings were painted or were created. Insert a formula in cell D9 to determine the age of a painting by using the current year. The formula must work for any year. All right, so you see they're repeating the word year so many times now that you know you clearly have to use the function year. All right, and using the current year, the only way to get the current year is to use a function to use the current date, and that would be today or now. All right, so in D9, we first want to get today's or the year of the current year, hey? So today's date will be like this, hey? But at the moment it's giving us a number because it's not set to date. I'm not going to set it to date because I actually want a year. So if we say the year of today, you see, so year has its own brackets. And if this is too much for you, you can go put today somewhere else. Hey, let's go put today here. Today. And then let's do year over here. Year of, and then we have to refer to this cell. Year of today. There you go. We've got the year of today minus, because we're now determining the age, hey? Minus the year in which it was painted, the column that they gave us. Enter. And there we've got the age of the painting. 3.8. Work in the duplicate worksheet, duple worksheet. Use any spreadsheet feature to remove all the duplicate artists from the list. Okay. So select the list. If you have no idea, and you're lucky enough to have Office 2016, hey, it actually suggested even, wow, I'm in Office 2019. Just start typing duplicates and you'll see it actually says remove duplicates. But just so you know, this action is on the data tab. And we can go, I think, where is it now? There, remove duplicates. All right, so to delete duplicate values, select one or more columns that contain duplicates. It's the artist name that contain duplicates. I'm going to untick that one and say OK. And there we have 45 unique values that remain. So it automatically removed the rest. 3.9. Work in the chart worksheet. Follow the instructions below to change the chart or graph to appear as the example below. Change the chart or graph to include only the data of all the locations with the names starting with the letters L to P. So only L to P. All right, so there were many ways to do that. I think that I was actually one of the markers on this question, so we accepted pretty much anything that you did. I think the easiest way for me personally would be to apply a filter and actually then say begins, custom filter, begins with no, but then you would have to do each letter. Now, I can't remember how I actually did it, but in the end, I think the really, really easiest way would actually be to delete the records. But I don't think everyone thinks that you can do that. So lots of people just change the range. So you can do that as well. So you can go to select data and change the range and actually select just this range. Okay, you can do that. Or you could have, if you select the data, just untick everything that is not. That way you actually don't. That's like the safest way in terms of not messing with the data, so that you just have the correct L to P, and then you have everything else that you're supposed to have. I think that would be the safest way to not mess with the data. Okay, but we accepted anything. Any way of actually achieving that. Then, next, change the vertical axis display units to billions. So it's this one, right click, format axis. So it's over here, display units is billions. There you go. Display location as the horizontal axis title at the bottom there. So let's just move this a bit, plus horizontal axis title, yes. And just click there and type location. Okay, by the way, I don't know if this is ever going to be asked, but just a very cool trick. If you want to link a title to a cell, you can click on the cell, or you can click on the title, press equals, and then click on the cell and press enter, and then it actually updates. Okay, then next, add any moving average trend line to the chart or graph. Then plus trend line moving average, because they said any moving average trend line. So it's that one is the easiest one. Next, change the legend text series 1 to read as value. So it's this one that must say value instead of series 1. Okay, so for that we need to go to select data. This must be edited, and we actually change the series name to value. Okay. And last but not least, fill the plot area background with a 3 flowers image found in your examination folder. So we select the plot area, right click. You can choose fill from here actually, or you can go do it over here by fill. Picture from a file, and it's flowers. There you go. So just in the plot area. Okay, and that was question 3. Save and close.